All right, let's get into it. Today, we're putting on our cloud architect hats. We're not just going to talk about managing AWS. We're going to talk about designing a master blueprint for your entire cloud environment. One that's actually secure, that can grow with you, and is built to last. Let's dive in. But first, let me ask you something. Does your cloud feel, well, a little chaotic? Maybe you're in that classic situation where everything started in one single AWS account. Super simple at first, right? But now it's just this sprawling, tangled mess. You can't tell who owns what, you have no idea who's spending all the money, and you're not even sure if it's secure anymore. If any of that sounds familiar, you are definitely in the right place. So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with that chaos. Then I'll show you the blueprint to fix it. We'll design some common structures, set up some rules, and even walk through a real-world example. Then we'll wrap up with the 4 big principles you gotta know. Okay, so let's really dig into the problem. An unmanaged cloud. Honestly, it's like an unplanned construction site. There's no master plan, you've got different teams just building stuff wherever they feel like it. Security is kind of an afterthought, and those bills just keep climbing higher and higher with no good explanation. It's not just messy, it's actually pretty dangerous. And here is why that's such a big deal. When everything is crammed into one account, you have 0 blast radius. That means one little mistake, one wrong click, could take down your entire production environment. Billing becomes this huge detective mission, trying to figure out which team spun up that ridiculously expensive database. And your developers, they end up slowing down because they're terrified of breaking someone else's stuff. So, how do we fix this? We bring in a master blueprint. And in the AWS world, that blueprint is a service called AWS Organizations. This is the absolute foundational tool that lets us finally bring some structure and order to all that chaos. To put it simply, AWS Organizations is what lets you group and centrally manage a whole bunch of AWS accounts. So instead of trying to juggle a dozen or even 100 separate accounts, you get to manage one single, cohesive organization from one master account. This right here is the starting point for doing governance at scale. Okay, so if AWS Organizations is our master blueprint, now we need a floor plan, right? We have to decide how to arrange all the rooms. In AWS, we do this by structuring our accounts into these logical groups called organizational units, or OUs for short. Now, there are really 2 main ways to think about this. You can organize by workload, so you'd have separate accounts for an app's dev, test, and prod environments. This is amazing for security and isolation. Or you could organize by team. You give the marketing team their own account, the engineering team gets theirs, and so on. This is fantastic for clear ownership and for tracking budgets. The truth is, most companies end up using a hybrid of both. But no matter what strategy you choose, you're almost always going to have a few of these common OUs. A security OU is, well, essential for centralizing all your logs and security tools. A shared services OU is great for things that everyone uses, like networking hubs or developer pipelines. And most importantly, you absolutely want to separate your production and non-production workloads into different OUs. That lets you enforce much stricter rules on the stuff that really matters. We've got our structure. The frame is up. Now it's time to install the wiring, the plumbing, the security systems. In our cloud blueprint, these are our guardrails. These are the policies that enforce the rules of the road across every single account in our organization. And the main tool for this job is something called Service Control Policies, or SCPs. Think of an SCP like the bouncer at a club. It doesn't actually grant you permission to get in, but it can definitely kick you out. It defines the absolute maximum permissions anyone can have in an account. For example, you could use an SCP to say, no one, anywhere in this organization, is ever allowed to turn off our central logging. See how powerful that is? It's a preventative control. And speaking of logging, a core principle here is centralization. You have to create dedicated accounts, usually in that security OU we just talked about, and their only job is to collect logs and host security tools. This gives you a single, unchangeable source of truth for auditing and responding to problems. Seriously, this is non-negotiable for good governance. All right, theory is great, but I think it's time to see how this all actually looks in practice. Let's build out a sample blueprint for, say, a typical mid-sized company, and we'll put all these pieces together step by step. So let's see how this comes together. Everything starts with the root of your organization. Now, the very first OU you create, sitting right underneath that root, is your security OU. And inside that, you're going to place your log archive account and your security tooling account. From day one, they're isolated and protected. Okay, next up, alongside that security OU, we create a primary workloads OU. This is going to be the parent for all of our actual applications. And then, and this is a critical step, inside that workloads OU, we immediately create two more, a production OU and a non-production OU. This separation is the absolute key to having different levels of control where you need them. And now, this is where the magic happens. When a developer needs a new sandbox to play in, you create an account for them inside the non-production OU. When they're ready to launch their app, their production account goes into the production OU. Each of those accounts automatically inherits the guardrails, those SCPs, that you've attached to the OUs above it. This is how you automate governance. This is how you scale. Okay, let's zoom out for a second. All of these structures, all of these policies, they're all built on a foundation of some really timeless design principles. Think of this as the architect's building code. These are the 4 pillars that make sure whatever you build is strong, safe, and actually sustainable. First up, isolation. We use separate accounts to contain that blast radius if something goes wrong. Second, least privilege. You only ever grant the absolute minimum permissions needed to do a job, nothing more. Third, clear ownership. Every single account, every resource should have a person or a team who is responsible for its cost and its security. And fourth, auditability. Thanks to our central logging account, we can always track who did what and when. These 4 pillars are your North Star. So there you have it. You see, a well-designed cloud blueprint, it doesn't restrict you, it actually empowers you. It provides the safety and the structure your teams need to innovate and build incredible things, and to do it faster and more securely than ever before. So, with your blueprint in hand, really, the only question left is, what are you going to build?